This is First Gen Xers.
Poetic beat, poetic beat, poetic beat.
Hello. What's up, y'all? It's me. It's Dark Lord 100, aka Double K, and I am here with the one and only Mr. Suave, as we are back for another edition of First GenXers Presents The Classroom, featuring Mr. Suave this time. O'Malley is out this week. Hopefully, we should have her back next week for some great sports talk. We're going to open up today's discussion, sir, as usual, same as last week, except this week with a little bit more information. We now have a 2-2 series after a 111-104 victory by the Oklahoma City Thunder in Indiana. We now go back to Oklahoma City with Oklahoma City regaining the home court advantage with 2 games left in OKC and 1 left in Indiana. So does this series, we'll start out with this question, does this series play out the same way you thought it would when the series started than the last time that we talked?
I mean, any finals that's on, unless your favorite team is playing, in which case you want to sweep so it's over with. But as the casual watching teams that you don't necessarily root for, you definitely just want a competitive series, a series that's entertaining. And this has been nothing short of entertaining through every game. I do know that in game 4, Indiana fans are a bit upset with the way that it was refed, especially kind of late. Um, I think that Indiana had their opportunities, especially late when they were up. But you've got the closeout games. They know this firsthand as they've been able to come from behind and knock a couple teams on their behind late. And this time they seem to make some of the boneheaded mistakes. I believe Nesmith or Messmith made some critical errors that gave Oklahoma City 2 extra points that they really ended up kind of needing on technical free throws, but they still ended up having opportunities uh, real late in that game, but they unfortunately couldn't get it done for them. And it's Oklahoma City. They, like you said, they got the home court advantage back, and game 5 is honestly kind of a must win for both teams, to be honest.
Yep. I was gonna say, yeah, on Monday, it's a must-win for Indiana, because here's the deal: if you go down 3-2 and then you got to go back home just to even the series, you're looking at a daunting task in Game 7,
Yeah.
in Oklahoma. But if you win Game 5, you win that first game in Oklahoma, then you go back home with the ability to close it out and not have to ever go back to Oklahoma City again. I say the Pacers needed more than the Thunder do, but again, which team do you feel has the edge? Is it still Oklahoma City? Because I believe last week you said Oklahoma City at 6, right?
Um, I believe that the pressure is on Oklahoma City. Indiana's playing with house money right now. Um, I think Oklahoma City needs to win back-to-back games,
No,
um, especially being at home, and then put that pressure for Indiana to defend their home court in game six is going to be critical. Um, I believe that Indiana has a puncher's chance of winning game five. If they
no.
stick to the script and don't make the late unforced errors like they did in game four, they'll definitely have a chance. And then I think the unsung hero for Oklahoma City has been Alex Caruso. I think he's playing exceptional ball right next to SGA and the rest of the team. He's been a pivotal piece through most of this playoffs, to be quite honest. And if he continues to have these type of games, there's a chance he could steal the Finals MVP away from SGA, which would, kind of emulate what happened with Curry and Iguodala.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. But here's the question that I would ask next would be okay, so we know SGA's he's been averaging he's averaging damn near 30 a game this series, is he not? Like I want to
Yep.
say he put up 35 last game. So we know SGA for the Thunder. Who is that second piece? Is it Jalen Williams? Is it Lou Dort? Is it Chet Holmgren? Who is that other piece that needs to step up in order for the Thunder to close the door? To me, I would think it's actually Lou Dort, and it's a really weird reason because I think he's that scrapper. He's that Lou Williams. Or is it Patrick Williams and Lou Williams, Patrick Beverly and you Williams. He's that role on this squad. And so I think Dort would need to be the guy, not necessarily on the offensive end, but on the defensive end to frustrate Halliburton and Nesmith and them. And somebody needs to do something about TJ McConnell. I don't know if they can, but if the Thunder are going to stay, somebody needs to, whether it's Dort, whether it's Wiggins, like somebody. Because McConnell was flying all over the place, getting steals, getting layups, getting rebounds. You know what I'm saying? Hitting big shots. It hasn't. It's resulted in two games for Indiana and what might have been a sweep had he not played as hard as he did. You know, so I will mention this about Game Four. In Game Four specifically, you can tell me what you think about this one. Uh, Game Four played out kind of the flip of Game One, where Indiana looked like they had control of that game pretty much up until the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden, everything just fell apart. So I don't know if that was Indiana running out of gas or if that was a sign of things to come.
I think that's issues with both teams. Both teams, it's the first time either of them have been there at this stage, in a final series. And even though they played in the playoffs, the series or the finals itself is an even bigger um, mental battle. And late game execution is the killer. I mean, if you look at Curry versus Boston and or just the Warriors versus Boston. That was you could see the reason the Warriors honestly probably shouldn't have won that series, but they understood and had been there before, so they were able to execute and close them out in six games. So this is both teams learning. Both teams have had fourth quarter collapses where they looked like they were running away with games and coughed them up in the second half and allowed the other team to win a game where it looked like they had full control. So it's a learning experience for both teams. And back to your initial question about who needs to step up, I think that for both teams, it's everybody outside of Halliburton and SGA. The teams themselves, the every other player from that from 2 to 9 that gets into the game, they've got to go in and be able to execute. You know, Miles Turner could have a big game, but he needs it if Indiana is gonna pull off the upset, as it were. Um, Chet Holmgren still needs a game. They still continue to need contributions from Caruso, who's been the sixth man of this series. So, both teams still need things past their stars or number one options to pull out this series. And that's really where the battle is going to come from, is which teams' other players step up the most in these next 2 to 3 games.
For sure. For sure. I can agree with you there. All right. So here's just something I wanted to throw at you real quick is last note on the NBA Finals. In game 4, the Thunder broke an obscure Warriors record from 2018-2019. Basically for most points by a team in a season, regular season and postseason included. And it was, let's see, the Warriors' previous record was 12,161. They did it the 2018-19 season. So the second season with Durant of the back-to-back championships. And the Thunder broke that record as of game 4 with 12,205 points between the 2024-25 regular season and postseason. I don't know what to say. Like, that's super random. Like, I didn't even know the Warriors held that record.
Yeah, no one's really talked about it until recently. Statisticians and all the sports networks, they end up finding those obscure ones. But to be honest, this one's actually a pretty good record to find out about. It's the ones where they kind of cookie cut it down to turn it into a record when it's not really a record. But this one is. Games played plays into it a little bit, but you give credit to Oklahoma City. They had a lot of blowout victories. They did win over 60 games this season. So you give credit where credit's due. The team as a whole played real good offensive basketball. And in this playoffs, I believe they're first in offense and defense. So, I mean, you give them their credit. They go out there and they put the ball in the bucket. And, look at them now. They're 2 wins away from being able to win a title. And really, if you're gonna do it, that's one of the things. You got to be able to put the ball in the basket. That's number one in basketball.
Amen. Amen. All right, so that kind of transitions us over to the Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga, which is basically their biggest offseason question outside of just trying to find some size. I believe Marks had him somewhere around like 3 years. I think it was 55, 65 million, somewhere around there. Like easily around 20, 25 million a year, which I think would be reasonable for Kuminga. But it's kind of hard eating that coming off your bench. Like it's one thing to eat $5-10 million coming off your bench a year, but 20, 25. So what are your thoughts on JK and what the Warriors should look to do? Should they look to sign and trade him and just move him someplace else? Or do you think they should try to go ahead and pay that money and keep the kid?
I think it's almost a certainty. There's only 2 ways that this can go. So either he's probably going to be one of the most expensive six men in the history of the game so far. But my personal feeling is that there are workable scenarios out there where they could get a big and a solid 3 and D wing. I've seen a couple of trade proposals out there that could work. Um, if they were to do a sign and trade, which would allow JK to go to a team and be the number one option that could be built around, and then also help the Warriors in the short term during the Curry, Butler, Draymond Green last hurrah of a couple seasons. So honestly, it can go either way. It depends on um, how good those deals are. The one I saw that I like the most, I believe, is Keegan and Valachunas for Kaminga in a sign and trade. I believe that would send him to Sacramento, where he could go and be the star for Sacramento. And then the Warriors
Well,
get their
I believe they have Levine and DeMar DeRozan as well.
yeah, yeah, but those guys, if they're not dealt, they still would be told that JK is the guy.
Fair enough.
Levine is on the back end of his career or the second half of his career. DeRozan's at the end of his career. So JK is going to go in, and it's going to be one of those situations where he'll have to suffer for a couple of seasons while they continue to build a team. They do have Domantas Sabonis, so they do have some pieces. I think it could be very intriguing, but then I can also see if the Warriors can talk to Kuminga and let him know that for these next two or so seasons, he's going to be coming off the bench. But as soon as Curry, Butler, and Green, right into the sunset, it's his team. And he'll be able to be the guy. And he's obviously shown that he can go out there and get you 25 to 30 a night, if he's willing to be patient. Only problem is that I don't think he has the legacy drive yet in his career. He didn't come in anointed as the guy, so he doesn't have the "I gotta win titles right now" type of deal going, and he could afford to be patient. But he's done curious things throughout his Warriors career so far, i.e., not spending any of the off seasons where or with the coaching staff at the facility, going off on his own and doing his own thing. So I think the writing is on the wall, including what Steve Kerr said about how he can't necessarily fit him into certain lineups, which is, I don't know, as a layman outside looking in, that doesn't really make sense to me, but I do understand that the Warriors continue to draft players and try to mold them into what they want versus what they do well, which is what they've been doing with some of their higher draft picks that they've been looking into, like Wiseman and Kuminga.
Mm.
Um, they can't allow themselves to get into a position where he tries to pull a sign a 1 year deal and then he's gone after that without any compensation. So I think they're both of them have leverage. Kaminga could sign a 1 year and be gone and put everything into this basket and not really care if he plays or not because he's gonna get paid. And yeah, it might hurt him by a couple of $1 million if he doesn't play all most of the season, but his early tapes and especially the last playoffs showed that he can go out there and get buckets. He just can't defend that great and doesn't rebound for his size that well. And um, his defense is somewhat average, if not subpar. So
For as big as
but
he is, yeah.
yeah. So I think that they both have leverage. I think that what's going to end up happening is they will deal him to a team that allows him to be a top option. Um,
Maybe to
but I could
Utah for
all
marketing.
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely could be. It absolutely could be. That's another trade that's possible. And they don't have to get that 3-and-D wing included. Really, you're just trying to trade Kaminga for a solid big that's done 15 and 10 and plays decent rim protection. I mean,
Bring
really,
me
the
Andre Drummond. I'll take an old Andre Drummond. All we need him to do is protect the paint and rebound.
Yeah, but I would also say you also want a center that can shoot free throws. And Andre Drummond is a terrible free throw shooter, and he's going to
Fair
get
enough.
fouled a lot.
Yeah.
So I mean, I want to say there's 4 or 5 ones out there that I think they could make a play for with dangling Kaminga. A couple might get that big if they're on the older end, and maybe a pick back, which would be real beneficial. Because JK's youth, I believe he's only 22. So. I think that they're going to trade him. I'm not sure when. I think the right package will kind of line itself up once the season starts getting into free agency mode, uh, and after the draft, and we see what teams kind of need. And then I do think that they're maneuvering in a way to be able to get value for him past just another player, because you need a decent player. It's got to be somebody, like I said, that can average 15 and 10, and those don't necessarily grow on trees, but there is about 10 or so at that level, not superstars, but plug and play type guys. So I think that they can make some maneuvers. If they kept him, I could see them doing that as well, putting them in kind of a 6-man role, most minutes off the bench, still getting about 25, 30 minutes a game. In some type of rotation. If they do keep him, Kerr has to figure it out. He has to do his job and be able to figure out how to get his offense in there because it's obvious that the coaching staff can't mold players, so they need guys. They use him how he for what he does well. If he's an offensive weapon, then when Curry sits or when Butler sits, put Kaminga in to get his and get his points. And I think that way it could be successful. I would like for them. And I remember when they took Wiseman and we had Wiseman, Moody, and Kaminga when they were all super young. That was the future of the team, you know. So I think it still could be, but everything is going to go into the Curry, Butler, Green bucket. They need a five. Looney's good, and he's had his moments, and he's had championship moments. 20 rebound night type moments, which is incredible for an undersized center that can't necessarily shoot the ball, but is halfway decent shooting free throws. So if they can get
6'9", I
somebody,
want to say.
you know, 26, 27, 28, maybe even close to 30, who's a guy that is a known quantity, um, I think they definitely try and work that sign and trade.
Well, all right. Speaking of that subject and looking of kind of a big, he's not really a big, but playing out of Milwaukee, there's been talks that the Warriors are a team to watch when it comes to Bobby Portis from the Bucks. I think he could be that dude, but I would rather see them sign somebody like Robin Lopez to the mid-level exemption. I want to say he's a free agent out of Milwaukee this year too. So I would love them to see them sign and roll. Them Lopez brothers have always been good at banging down low. They can hit some threes every now and then when necessary. And don't forget, when it comes to bigs, I think that we're really truly sleeping on what post could be.
Yeah, but for what we need, I want to say because again, he's a guy that can go out there and he can stretch the floor, which is what Kerr is obsessing over that Kaminga can't do because he needs to slash to the basket and he's ball dominant. But post is honestly 2 more seasons away from being whatever they're trying to build him into. Uh, he is a decent, or I got to be honest, he's a below average post defender.
Yeah.
He can go out in there and scrap you some rebounds. He's not a black hole down there that can't do anything but shoot the ball. He has the ability to do what they want and the desire because he kind of got brought in not necessarily off the scrap heap, but G League and got his contract and got signed, so he's
Well, they
willing to
drafted him
learn.
last year. They drafted him last year and then put him in the G League. They drafted him in the second round. He's
Yeah,
my example whenever when I talk about a second rounder contributing when I'm criticizing Bronny James. Is I'm like this guy was drafted 3 draft picks before Bronny James. He was drafted at 52. Bronny James was drafted at 55. This guy averaged like 12 to 18 a game, or 12 a game for the season, and I think like 18 a game down the stretch. 5, 6 rebounds, 2, 3 assists. Like there's potential there. It's just a matter of whether or not this coaching staff pushes him in the right direction to where he starts focused to have him work with whoever our defensive guy is right now. Because Steve Kerr always has a defensive guy on his staff. Have him work with that guy and have him go work with. Is Hakeem still alive? I believe he is. Yeah, I don't believe Hakeem Olajuwon is there, right?
yeah, he's still kicking, but
Yeah.
you know, I for what they want. I'd rather them go hard after Steven Adams and have Steven Adams take the kid under his wing and learn how to play the post from Steven Adams because the shot, he doesn't necessarily need help with the shot. What he needs help
Oh,
with
yeah.
is everything else about his game that Steven Adams excels at.
Yeah, but I think the rebound game is going to come to him. The kid's like 6'11", 7 foot. The rebounds, he just has to learn position. Like the size is
Yeah.
already there. And
I mean, but
positioning
we
is
said the
important.
same thing with Kaminga. He's got the size, but he's still 4 years in, can't do it.
Yeah, but I think that post is a little bit different. I think if you pair him with the right defensive teacher, I think his offensive game will round itself out. Here's the thing about it. I don't think Steve Kerr and them want a bang low post guy. Like, because if you look at who was it? If you look at what Bogut and Pachulia were to us, they were not players. Hello? Swap?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. But yeah, so Pachulia, Zaza Pachulia and Andrew Bogut, they were never really big post guys. Their main primary jobs were just kind of rebounding and then dishing the ball out. And then if they had an open shot in the post, then going ahead and hit the layup or do it like that. Neither one of them was
Yeah, but
expected to be scoring bigs. I want to say, how many games did Bogut and Pachulia combined score 20 points at the
well,
post?
Pachulia was a banger and was more of a defensive center. Bogut in Milwaukee was a
Yeah,
fantastic offensive force as well as
yes.
had great defense. It wasn't until his injuries where he definitely slowed down and lost a touch of his entire game, but he could still play him in the high post and kind of orchestrate the offense of guys just kind of running around him. Pachulia learned how to do that a little bit. Zaza was good, but he was definitely more of a banger. And that's really what they haven't had for, I mean, I don't want to say since, but
Well,
Looney
really,
was
they
a,
have.
a decent banger, but he's just undersized.
Yeah. And that's where I get where you're coming from. But what I was saying was is that post can do, if you can round out that part of his game, not necessarily the post scoring, but the rebounding and the defensive side of his game. If you can round that out about him, his scoring touch is there. The cat shot like 42% from three last year. You know what I'm saying? Like he led all rookies. So like his shooting touch, and he has a nice little mid-range jumper as well. The scoring touch is there that we've always wanted out of a big man. So if you just round out the rest of his game, and I know they said the same thing with Kuminga, but here's the difference. Kuminga's not a spot-up shooter. He's a slasher. He's cutting that. That's where he's most effective when he's cutting to the hole. When he's cutting to the hole. Post is more effective in a spot up shooter range in that mid range than Kuminga is already. Not to mention whatever he develops into. So it's not that I'm saying we need to put all of our eggs in the basket of post. I'm saying, yeah, go out and get somebody. That's why I like the idea of a Robin Lopez. Go out and get somebody that for a year or two can hold that slot down and give post a little time to develop into the stretch five that we've always wanted, that you tried to use Draymond as sometimes. That five that big man that not only can score on you, not necessarily Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson style, in the post, but can get you 5-6 points a game in the post, or 6-8 points a game in the post, but can also hit a midi, can also pull the opposing center all the way out to the 3-point line, and they have to respect what he can do there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I
Like
mean the
Steven
combo
Adams.
game, the combo game for Post and Kaminga could be a real nice thing because that's why you want the stretch five is because they do so much cutting and slashing to try and get guys open and use motion, which is why you like Post's offensive abilities. But at the same time, when it comes to the defensive side of the ball, that's when you kind of want him to be able to learn how to bang and get in there and get those rebounds. That's kind of why I like Steven Adams a whole lot if he's willing to come into the Warriors on the mid level.
That's a big if. That's a big if. Who did he play for this year? I want to say the Rockets, right?
Yeah, he was with the Rockets. I do like the Lopez thing, but I got a feeling he's going to hold out until he finds out what's going on with Giannis. If
Oh,
Giannis resigns, I got a feeling he's going back to the Bucks.
well,
I
Giannis is
also
locked up for like another 3 years. Like they don't need to resign him. Like he's not a free agent. They were just saying he was going to ask for a trade this year.
Yeah, and when your big dog asks for a trade, it's almost a certainty to go through. And as a free agent looking to go to a team, you want to know if he's going to be there
Right.
for at least half the season up until the trade deadline. So until they sort that out, because Brook, he can walk in tomorrow. He doesn't need training camp or any of that. So he can hold out to the last minute till he's sure that Giannis is going to be there before he wastes a year of playing. The other guy I'd like to keep an eye on would also be Miles Turner. And I think that's going to be dependent on if Indiana doesn't win the title. If they don't win the title, I think he might go into free agency, and then maybe we do a sign and trade with Kuminga for Miles Turner, who I really like and does a lot of the same things that Post does, only more at a veteran level.
Got you. Got you. Well, I'm glad you brought up Giannis because the next subject on tap is that Brian Rindhorst recently did a report and said basically at this point it doesn't look like Giannis is going to be moved anytime in the near future. They said he hasn't asked for a trade yet. and the Bucks have no intentions of trading him at this moment. So
Yeah. I mean, until the big dog says he wants to leave, they're gonna, act like everything is peachy keen, and they're trying to run it back and get Dame healthy and bring back Lopez and see, if they can get this team back to where it was. They did get the one title, and that's kind of a sweet spot for the Bucks organization. You got the one ring, so it's not necessarily do or die. You
right,
definitely want to try and get one more ring out of Giannis's career. You did bring in Dame. They don't necessarily have the financial flexibility to do a ton of things, but Dame and Giannis, if healthy, could be or are a potent 1-2 combo. So as long as you can fill in some mercenary guys around them that they can mesh with, they can be a dangerous team. And then once you get to the playoffs, that's really all it's about, because at that point, for the most part, it's about experience and really kind of a crapshoot of who you match up against and who you end up facing in the offs. So for the Bucks, they're content with running them back until Giannis says, "Nah, I think I've had enough." I think he's gonna stay a Buck because honestly, you got your one ring. You know, if that ends up being all you get in your career, it's still going to put you up in the upper echelon legacy wise because you did it in Milwaukee. You could, in essence, not do what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did and leave for more titles. You could, even if you don't win it, you will be the best Milwaukee Bucks player of all time if you don't leave. It's still kind of Jabbar because he did get them one title before they traded him to the Lakers. But if he finishes his career, which Jabbar did not do with Milwaukee, then, you know, I think Giannis could go down as the greatest Buck, and it depends on, you know, does he care about that? Does he want to become a mercenary ring chaser, kind of like a la KD, which definitely hasn't worked. And to be honest, um, when everybody started doing the LeBron thing of I'm just going to jump teams every chance I get when things get tough, I'm just going to bounce the teams and keep my hopes alive because my legacy is defined by championships. Well, Giannis is one of the rare ones that isn't because he got one,
yep.
so I mean, when you really look at it, I think Giannis could say, you know what, I'm happy being in Milwaukee. I'm gonna go ahead and take I'm gonna finish off this deal. I'm gonna get one more Supermax short deal, and then I'm gonna hang them up and hope that I can get one, maybe two rings out of that 3 to 5 to 6 year window that I can still play ball. I'm gonna eke out the last little bit of ability out of Lillard and see if we can, combo up at least one more title to get Dame a ring, and then you're definitely solidified as you'll be solidified as the best Buck of all time, and probably forever, because who knows if they can ever get another Giannis, so I don't
Well,
necessarily see him leaving, but it depends on if he wants to go that route because it has not been rosy for KD.
yeah, true. I'll say, what about a sign and trade of Kaminga for Bobby Portis? I want to say Bobby Portis still have 2 years left on his deal, but he's making like 20, 25 mil a year.
How tall is Portis? He's 6'10",
6'9".
6'11", or is he 6'9"? Yeah.
I want to
He's
say
a bit
6'9", 6'10".
undersized. I would like for the Warriors to shy away from the undersized guys that can be a five. I mean, he can do a lot of things
Well,
that
no,
you want.
I'm not saying bring him in as a five. I'm saying bring him in as a four. Move Draymond to the three and move Butler to the two, and then still go out and get a Lopez or somebody like that, because you're paying him what you would have paid Kaminga anyway, which means you'll still have the mid level exemption.
I mean, it's possible. I'd prefer if they used Kuminga for a true five.
Right.
Um, Somebody that could go down and bang and literally plug right into the starting center role. I'd prefer that over all options. But if it's not going to be a pure five, then yeah, I'm not mad against Bobby
Portis.
coming in. I think that, he can shoot the ball. He's a good player. I do like the idea of putting Butler at the two, Dre at the three, having Bobby at the four, and then pray you can get somebody to run the five until Post is ready in another year or two. Um, that is doable. That's doable, and I do like that team. But as it stands right now, I want a for sure banging defensive-minded five that has some type of touch around the basket or at least in the high post, and I'm happy.
Okay. Fair enough. We're going to go ahead and pause there, take our one and only commercial break for the evening, and then we'll be back. We got, I think, one more Warriors topic. Then we got some off-season trades to talk as well. Or sorry, yeah, NBA off-season trades to talk, and the big baseball trade that just happened literally a few hours ago. So you're watching The Classroom featuring Mr. Suave. I know it says O'Malley up there. That's just because I didn't have time to change the whole thing there, but we're here with Mr. Suave today. And be sure to tune into the second half of the show. It's going to get good. And also tune in for today's Double K's Classroom, where I tell you why the league is not quite as done with the super team era as they think. And I'll just leave it there. This is The Classroom, Twitch TV, first GenXers. Peace.
This is now versus then. This is now versus then. Get on your mark, let's go. This is now versus then. Burning up your radio, still turning up the heat with Poetic on the flow. Got you moving to the beats with the Saint as your host. Shout out the collective, hold it down, we gon' clown, that's the lesson. Where Generation X meets Generation Next, with them bangers from the east to the south to the west. Yeah, this how we do it in Sacktown. Slide to the studio, yup, it goes down. These beats gon' pound, waking the game up, told you it goes down. And this is only the intro. Turn the mics on, shout out to my kinfo. Where you at, y'all? Let's get this started. Turn down for what? We about to start the party. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. This is now versus then. This is now versus then. This is now versus then. This is now versus then.
the beholder. But the definition of beauty is distorted. Yeah, come on. Searching for yourself, so insecure about the way you look, so you go to Miami. You can't find the love within yourself.
Unmute so we can be heard. There we go. All right. So what's up, y'all? We are back here. It is me, Dark Lord 100. I'm here as well with Mr. Suave. We've been talking basketball for about the past half hour or so, and we're going to kind of continue in that vein. The Warriors, this upcoming NBA draft, have one pick. It's a second-round pick. Without going into specific players, unless you have a couple in mind, what direction would you like to see them go with this pick? Like the past 2 years, it was Quentin Post, and the year before that, it was Ty Jackson Davis.
Take another shot to find one of those two archetypes. Either find another big that can stretch the floor that slips well into the second round, or I guess 41 isn't that far into the second round. That's still pretty early into the second. So they could get a promising player at that pick, somebody that they can develop, put in the G League for half the season and call up late. I'd like to see somebody. Honestly, I'd like to see them get a true 6'11" or 7-footer. That can definitely somebody that's definitely maybe even a Looney archetype. I wouldn't be mad at another Looney who's actually 6'11", 7 foot. There should be a couple of players available at that pick. So the second rounders, I don't have an issue with the Warriors in their drafting. It's been most of their first rounders where I have an issue.
Okay. Now I was going to say, don't forget about the fact that they do have Trace Jackson Davis at the center, but then again, he's 6'9". I like the Post guy because he's 7 foot. He's a pure 7-footer at the power forward position, but he doesn't even really play center. Jackson Davis does, along with Looney. So yeah, I could say I agree. Go with a big man if you can find one. I would love to see them go with a big man that they could stash overseas for a season. And it's Steiner.
I would say the overseas, but I think the G League is a better option because then you're not looking at a 14-hour flight to get them back. You're looking at a couple hour flight to get them back. Maximum if they're playing on the another coast, it's going to be in the States, so it's only 8 hours, and you can actually get them there for game time if needed, in a pinch.
Right.
So the G League changes how it used to be. A couple of years back, 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago. Yeah, stash them over in Europe for a year or two, let them play with Euro ball, train with the Euro coaches and kind of get a better feel for the game. But the G League, I think, is that option now.
I think that the league, and this is going to be an off-topic thing that we can run with for a couple of minutes here, is that I personally think that as much as I love the G League and it has a great purpose, I think kind of like how baseball has minor league, but there's levels to minor league. You have A, double A, triple A, and the cats normally start out at A unless they're really good, in which they'll start out at double A or triple A, and then they kind of work their way up to the majors. I would love to see something similar, except what you do. And I don't know if the foreign teams will go for this, or you can do it as an NFL Europe type or NBA Europe type thing. Have a team, effectively minor league team over there that represents, but you hire coaches from out there. They play European style basketball, but that team is tied to an NBA team. You see what I'm saying? So that way you can send players over there to learn the European game, because they definitely 100% teach a much more well-rounded game at each position. And they like a lot of their players to learn to play multiple positions instead of just playing the one position solid. And that's how you get guys like Luka and Jokic. And yes, they're once in a lifetime people, but you can get them to a lower extent and still have it be successful.
I mean, you can because that's European and Chinese basketball is where players go to finish out their career and get their final paychecks.
Yeah.
Um, Is it doable? Yes. Would you have to do things like add a third and fourth round to the NBA draft so more guys got drafted that you held rights on? That definitely would have to be something that would happen. Um, Maybe even be able to sign some undrafted free agents to fill out rosters. The question is,
You can even sign
uh,
players from Europe, from the European
yeah,
teams.
the other problem is that how does it the league doesn't necessarily like black holes. And if you put double A talent over in Europe, I mean, they've got a bunch of leagues over there, so it's not going to make money. It's not going to draw crowds per se, unless you put them in not named cities that already have Euro leagues going on. So, I mean, is it doable? Yeah, but financially speaking, doing it all over there in Europe and then the flights of flying people back and forth when they get their call ups and stuff. At the moment, I don't see the feasibility in it. I mean, even the NFL Europe didn't necessarily last because it just couldn't find the hold on it. There is talks that London might get an NFL team at some point as an expansion team, but they'll be the only one. I think the other one would probably be Mexico City might get the other if they really kind of expand it out. Um, but that's one and one. That's not an entire league of teams. So it's doable, but I think you'd have a better shot of doing that. Um, Essentially where they're doing the G League now. You call the G League the Triple A's, and you would have another Double A affiliate. And essentially, when your team goes on the road, as let's just say the Santa Cruz Warriors, when they go on the road, then the Double A's would play a home game essentially, and you could kind of cross everything over like that.
Yeah.
It'd be, the G Leaguers don't make a ton of money and they're definitely not going to want to make as much as the people in double A, or second tier. basketball. So, the money comes into it. But I mean, is it doable? Yeah, I would love to see more guys getting an opportunity. I would love to see the draft expanded a couple of rounds, so more guys are getting that draft experience
Yeah,
of being drafted. Because right now you're talking 64 guys get drafted, and that's it. And then everybody else is free agents, and it's wish for the best. Whereas if you had another round or two, that's another 32 to 64 people that, kids that get a chance to do something with the game that they love. So
and
I'm
that's
for it.
part of what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Real quick before we jump off the Warriors, hey man, they're going to struggle for a year or two while they put together their identity. But hey, welcome the Valkyries to the WNBA. It's nice watching it. I think I watched like half a game with them.
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't come out the gates too well. They had the Asian lady that they made jerseys for, and everybody was buying her jersey for a heartbeat, and then she didn't even make the team out of training camp, which was crazy. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on with the Valkyries, but I do know if Lacob's involved, he wants them to win. I'm not sure how the contracts are structured in the WNBA. I'm not, I just know a handful of the name players and just a handful of the teams, and I haven't really paid super close attention since um Swoops was playing for the Houston Comets. So, and I don't even think the Comets are around anymore. They'd already, disbanded the Comets. So that's how old I am when it comes to the WNBA game. But I do think that they'll be successful at some point. It's just they didn't have a very auspicious beginning in year one. Although I was listening to the radio when they did get their first victory, home victory, which is something nice. So look forward to Laker, owning a team, because obviously the dude wants to win. He doesn't buy stuff and own things to not win, which is a rarity around our parts for the most part. So
Well,
it's
I'll say it
good.
like this: give it a couple of years, let a couple of bigger name free agents hit the market in the WNBA, and
Yeah.
watch how willing Lakeup is to spend that money to bring those ladies here to help win championships. Uh, but all
And it
right, so
won't
we
cost as
go.
much as the NBA team, so he could definitely cough up some change and put a winner together probably pretty quick.
Oh yeah. All right, so Desmond Bain headed to the Magic for two players and four first round draft picks. Well, actually, sorry. Swab corrected me right before we came on the air. Three first rounders and a pick swap. I don't. I guess if you're the Magic, you feel like this trade fell in your favor. Like this trade worked out the way you wanted it to. I think giving up four first round picks for anybody not named LeBron James, Kevin Durant, or Stephen Curry, maybe Jalen Brunson, is mind blowing. I don't even think the Knicks gave up four first rounders for Cat. And I would not say that Desmond Bain is better than Carl Anthony Towns.
No, but they also got back. It's all about what you get back.
Yeah,
So for the people that instantly say, "Oh, this shows the Luca trade," there's a difference here. Even though he was injury prone, AD was a top three power forward in the game, if not arguably the best power forward in the game, even if he was on the wrong side of the end of his career. So I mean, when you talk about Cat, they got Julius Randle back, and Randle's a 20 and 10 guy. So I mean, they got a player back, so that negated how many draft
and they
picks they
got
had to
Dante
give up.
DiVincenzo, I believe, as well.
Yeah, and I like DiVincenzo. I
Sure,
think
that's
for
a Golden State
Bain,
Warrior.
it showed that the Magic really, really wanted him. They were willing to pay the price to get him, whatever it took, because they really feel like he's the missing piece for them to be true title contending team. I believe Wagner and Banchero are still on the rookie deals. Bain just started getting paid. I think he's making like 25 million. So if they jettison a little bit of talent right now, they could be a player. They could be a player for any free agent that's coming out that they have their eye on and be able to afford and pay them. Giving up the draft picks also helps with that when you look at it because the Warriors have been doing that for forever. They sell all first round picks because they're in the later rounds or in the end of the first round, so they don't even really care about them, and they straight sell second round picks like they're nothing, until they feel like they need them. So I think the Banchero looks real good. Wagner looks real good. Bain looks real good. So right there, you've got a real good trio of super young players that can come together and kind of build around that want to be Orlando Magics. So I mean, yeah, does it seem like an overpay? No doubt. I mean, you're talking for four first round picks and the names weren't Giannis, KD, LeBron, Curry, then yeah, it looked like an overpay.
Yeah.
But when you're getting the player that you specifically targeted and wanted, and it's obvious to give up for a first, they wanted Desmond Bain over anybody else in the league, the
Yeah.
whole league. So
I'm pretty sure for four first rounders they could have gotten damn
almost
near anybody.
anybody. Yeah, anybody outside the top 5 or 10 that is untradables,
Yeah.
then yeah. So I mean, they wanted Bain. They think he's the missing piece. He very well could be. When you look at the four first rounders, if they were a bottom feeder, then yeah, it's a terrible trade, and they're giving up. Somebody else is about to luck into getting a couple of number one overalls or top fives if they get lucky. But that's not going to be the case because I believe that Orlando was already on the way to being a perennial playoff team,
Oh, yeah, they were a playoff
and
team this year. They
exactly. So
lost. Yeah.
they're only on the upswing. So those first round picks over those 4 years, including the pick swap, they're going to be late first. They might as well be second rounders. And yeah, you can find talent later on in the first round, but they're in win now mode. So I expect to see them, do a couple of big moves or big signings over the next season or two, while they have the cap room and maneuverability to do it before they give the mega deals to Banchero and Wagner, or I should say the one mega deal to Banchero and then a really good deal for Wagner, before they're cap stricken. So Orlando wants to win. They're still regretting what happened with Shaq back in the day. So I really think that they're doing everything that they need to do to try to win now and keep their young guys incredibly happy so they don't have a redo with what happened with Shaq. And Shaq left a
So
real good team too. He left a real good team.
trying to see what Memphis got back.
KCP, Contavious Caldwell Pope, and then somebody else. I
Cole
can't remember
Anthony,
his name.
Cole Anthony in the first four. So looking at what Memphis got back, is this a because they still got John Morant.
Yeah,
Uh, they well they don't have they still got Valanciunas, I
yeah.
believe. So they've still got some pieces. So would you call this a small rebuild, or is trading Bain just a way to get him off the books because he wasn't really as effective as he was a couple of years ago?
No, he played well for him. He was obviously their second scoring option and really chomping at the bit to kind of be the number one guy. So, or at least be more of a 1B with Morant. So, I think what this does is give them a little bit of cap flexibility. They got a 3 and D wing in KCP. They got another young player that they can kind of use and put into the rotation. They got four first round picks or three firsts in a pick swap that they can use to, I think, try to bring somebody or cajole somebody into a trade for a proven star to put around Ja, or augment the team in such a way where Morant signed for the long term. They still got a lot of pieces, so technically they could go out there and use these picks and keep just kind of building the team with these late first. They just got to do a great job of scouting. So this gives them that Danny Ainge type of flexibility, and that's kind of what I call it now when teams get a gaggle of draft picks. Because remember back when Boston had, I don't know, like 9 first round picks over like
Yeah.
3 seasons or 2 seasons or some crazy stuff, but he was able to finagle them and use them to build not only the Paul Pierce team, but also went out there and got the Tatum and the Brown and all that team. So or the current team. So um, I think it's a good move for Memphis, and I think it's a good move for Orlando. Although it seems one sided, I don't really look at it like that.
All right, so to close the show today, or at least this portion of the show today, we got one more subject to look at, and this was just dropped today by ESPN. San Francisco Giants traded a couple of pitchers, like 4 prospects, to the Boston Red Sox for third baseman Rafael Devers. Let's see. There it is. Let's see what the Red Sox got back. They got exchange for pitchers Jordan Hicks and Kyle Harrison. Kyle Harrison will actually pitch for the Giants tonight and was told he was traded right before the start. And prospects James Tibbs III and Jose Bello is what they get back. And the Giants get Devers, who this season is hitting .272 with 15 home runs, 58 RBIs in 73 games for the Red Sox. And he is in the second season of a 10-year, $313.5 million contract that's likely secures his place as the Giants' foundational player. Let's see. After the Giants selected, the Harrison departs after spending parts of 3 seasons with San Francisco. He was drafted out of De La Salle High School. The Giants selected Tibbs, number 13 in the 2024 draft. 22-year-old outfielder hit 246, 12 home runs, 32 RBIs for Giants AAA in Eugene. And Bello made 8 appearances this season for the Giants. Arizona Complex League team, logging a 2.0 ERA with 28 strikeouts in 18 innings of work. So that's who the Giants gave up, and they get all-star Devers in the second year of a long-term contract. So what do you think? Is this a good deal for the Giants? Because they're actually playing pretty well right now. I want to say they just took 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers.
The Giants needed more offense. They were willing to pay the price and give up a couple of prospects, including one guy that was in the majors, that was just getting to the majors, and another guy
2
that's
of
in
them,
AAA.
Hicks and
Yeah.
Henderson.
So it's a win now type of move. You need to see how Devers assimilates to being a San Francisco Giant. Not sure what this means for Matt Chapman. I thought he signed semi-long term with the Giants. I don't know if he's on the IR or hurt or what, but they definitely
No, he's
need
playing.
offensive.
He's playing and playing well. Like I want to
They
say, he
need
had a home run
offensive
rate for
punch.
us.
So I mean, this is a good move for them. It's curious that they're willing to cough up this money now. They've tried to sign a couple of guys here and there for big money. Aaron Judge comes to mind, but he kind of was using them to get more money out of New York. He really didn't really have any true interest in coming back, and kind of played that for more money. They
Same thing with
have
Juan
been in.
Soto.
Yeah, and then they also were in for Bryce Harper a few years back. So they've tried to get the big name guy. Hasn't worked out in their favor. This guy is in the second year of 10 years, so he's going to be a Giant for
He's
a
only
minute.
28.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, that's at the, I don't know, you call that the early mid to his prime. So as long as he stays healthy, it should be a good deal. 300 million over 10. So he's really making about 30 mil per season, which isn't high necessarily in baseball terms. Um, I mean, it's a good deal for the Giants. They definitely need some more offensive punch. The pitching has kind of come around. They got some guys. I would like to see them add another arm or two to the rotation, whether it be in relief or the starters. But I believe in their manager, and I think that this is a good deal.
There you go. There you go. I'm right there with you. I definitely think it's a good deal for the Giants. I think they find themselves a cornerstone. He's locked up for another 8 years. As long as the kid stays healthy, he's productive. 28 is, like you say, he's just hitting his stride, really. And he's a third baseman, so it may be the hot corner, but it's not exactly the most active one. So unless you're facing a lineup that's heavy in right-handers, so I could see him playing for the Giants for a few years and maybe being possibly, maybe being possibly part of a World Series run. But let me give a quick shout out before we wrap this part of the show up to Buster Posey. This was his first kind of big splash move as the new GM of the Giants. So, congrats to him, man. It's a hell of a play. You gave up a lot. Let's hope it works out in the long term, because you gave up two of your top prospects, and then two guys that were playing pretty well, and Hicks and Anderson off your major league roster. So there we go. All right, so it's our favorite time. Like I said, if anybody used to listen to West Coast Spice or saw us last week, we have a little opinion segment. And today I'm going to go on ahead and take the reins, since Suave did us the honor of giving us a Suave's take last week. I'm going to give you guys a Double K's classroom today. And as I told you earlier, my Double K's classroom is about to be about why the NBA's super team issue isn't quite over yet. All right, so the NBA, and I believe it was Mike Greenberg on ESPN recently who declared super team, the era of the super team is dead. It's no more. It's not going to happen anymore. It just can't happen. And I'm here to tell him and everybody else who was sitting there nodding their head on Get Up, agreeing with his ass, y'all. It's just like racism. It's just taking a different form. It may not look like big name players like Kevin Durant moving from team to team. It may look like a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder, who within the next 2 years, if their top players, SGA, Chet Holmgren, and Lou Dort, if all these young players, Williams, Wiggins, all develop into the players that we believe they can be, you're looking at another super team. They already almost won 65, and these guys are still developing. Look at Indiana, McConnell, Halliburton. Yeah, Halliburton's really the only true star. But if those other guys, Miles Turner, if these guys, Pascal Siakam, who's already an NBA champion, if these guys develop into who they can be at their peaks and they're still with Indiana, boom, super team. What I'm telling you is the age of the super team is not necessarily done as much as it's just shifted to more homegrown super teams of people developing the players they have to become great players in the league, as opposed to going out and just paying a bunch of great players to come play for your team. The Warriors did it. Steph, Clay, Draymond. Like the Warriors did it, and then they put good pieces around them. The Warriors model is what you're going to see moving forward as far as super teams. You're going to see teams drafting well and then getting good veteran or mid-level players to play around those players for a year or two to try to elevate them and put together something special. So I genuinely don't believe that the era of super team is done. It's just shifted, and it's going to look a lot different. You're going to see a lot more big threes, which to me, big three and super team is the same thing. Normally, most teams that have a big three have a deep bench, therefore making them a super team. What is a super team but a big three with a deep bench? I'm just trying to tell y'all, like, the day don't wave or not wave it. Don't celebrate. Don't pop the champagne yet. Don't declare super teams over, because we ain't seen our last super team in the league. It just ain't gonna come together the way these other ones have in the past. I'm Double K. This is my classroom. Hopefully you learned something. If you didn't, we had some fun. Nope. There we go. There we go. Hey, there we go. All right. So, what are your thoughts on my little diatribe there, Mr. Suave, about the death of the super team?
There will never be a death of the super team. I think that super teams have been around for forever for almost every league. But specifically about basketball, um, it's it has gone back, or we have seen a segue to organizationally built super teams that use the draft and use free agency. We're seeing that kind of coming back a little bit. I do think that the that LeBron kind of really started about kind of pooling guys together in their prime and or on the outside of their prime and getting them together and building a star-made super team. Um, it hasn't really gone to the wayside. It's just stars are still under contract at the moment, so they're not at the point where they're, going to jump ship and team up. We haven't seen what's going on. And also, a lot of people, I'm sure, just as we saw LeBron kind of open the floodgates for player-made super teams to be built, we've also seen the other side of that coin where other stars who feel that rings will define their legacies and their placement all time have tried to create super teams. And let's just be honest, let's look straight at KD. He went to the Warriors and he got 2 rings and then he left and he tried to build super teams at every single team he joined. He wasn't the only one. James Harden tried to do it. Russell Westbrook tried to do it. Kyrie's tried to do it. So it hasn't been successful. So for those guys, for any of them. So I think that the player made super team has taken a hit to a minor extent because they're seeing that it's not necessarily just that easy to put 3 super guys together or stars together and win titles. What LeBron was able to do in Miami, what Curry and KD were able to do with the Warriors, those were special. The teams were a bit better, more well-rounded. Also, the organizations were better, so it's not just easy as, oh, these 3 guys are going to team up. Let's chime them in for final runs.
Right.
So they're showing that it's not necessarily that easy. I think that we're right in a kind of a middle point where we're going to start to see another team or two for the guys that don't win rings on their teams that they were drafted by, kind of have an opportunity to come together. I do think that the NBA did do some things right with the supermax deals and things like that. So that way you're more enticed to want to stay. I mean, look at Luca. He lost out on $100 million because Dallas traded him. So I mean, that is you know, if you don't think your legacy is going to be defined by championship rings, $100 million is a lot of money to miss out on. So, are you willing to do that or try to get rings? So, I think that the league did right by it. We have not seen the end of super teams. We're seeing it return to the way it used to be, where organizations are building super teams, whether it be straight through the draft, through trades, signing free agents, or a free agent versus player-made super teams. And I think we're only seeing a little on that because the current crop of stars are assigned for the next few years, and we'll have to see which of those guys don't win rings or crushingly don't win rings and then want to team up.
There you go. Very well said, sir. Very well said. And that will close us out for this week. You can catch me next on Tuesday playing some NCAA football with this dude right here. Well, not necessarily with him, but in our league that we always play in.
Members.
Yeah, he's kicking my ass. I don't deny. I don't tell lies like that. But no, but what I'll say. And then, but you can catch Saint shortly after this, probably within the next hour, with a new episode of Now versus Then. And then you can catch us back here on next Sunday, Broadcast Sunday, Cheap Pop Podcast, and the Classroom at 6. Y'all have a great night. As one of my favorite content creators says, we out ya.